One more aspect here, in addition to finding out whether we need a two-engine plane or will a one-engine fighter jet do in terms of our requirements, the naval requirements. Apart from that, if you look at the LCA naval variant, what are some of them have been explained by Ajay, but in addition to that, what are the clear specifications which meet the requirements of Indian Navy?
He is quite right. Ajay is very right in saying that the Mark 1 may not meet all the operational requirements, and therefore the Mark 2, which will have a more powerful engine, most likely the F414, that should be able to meet all the QRs which have been laid down. Coming to two engines, always desirable. I, for one, personally have only flown single-engine aircraft from sea, so I don't find that there is a great sort of restriction on flying a single-engine aircraft. But desirability, yes, two engines are always better. MiG-29K has got two engines. Coming back to its the landing performance, which Ajay was speaking about, every landing on the deck is a controlled crash landing. We always say that it's a controlled crash landing because you come and actually hit the deck, and therefore it becomes very significant. But this is just as General Arora said, that it is a very landmark event not only for naval aviation, for the Indian aviation. And it's just the beginning of the journey. They will require to do something like 30, 40, 50 of these landings before it goes and touches down on the carrier. Because they have to define the envelope of this aircraft in various conditions of winds, various weight conditions, how much will it carry, what will be the rate of climb after it takes off from a ski jump. So it's not that he goes absolutely unknown, no. And once he goes on the deck, then the entire range has to be explored with zero sort of sea waves, sea state 1 and sea state 2, sea state 3, because performance gets impeded by these higher sea states. So that will require even further, maybe 100, 200 odd sorties from the deck, or maybe more. They have test points, and certain test points have to be met before it is declared operational.
Okay.
But my own very strong sense is that this is the time to take help of the United States Navy. They have a carrier compatibility division, and see how we can sort of hasten this process without compromising the safety. Because we don't have the all wherewithal. After all, our own pilots, Commodore Maulankar and Daya, they all went to the US. They did some deck landing on a smaller aircraft. But that is far off. But coming back again to what General Arora said, a very important point. Aircraft carriers generally are built around the aircraft that you're going to select. It is not the other way around, that you make the ship and then you find an aircraft. It will be very difficult to adjust and cut and paste, just like Vikramaditya. Vikramaditya was not designed to be aircraft carrier. We had to do so much of modifications, spend so much of money, and then MiG-29K has come on board. And that too, it is operating at the fringe of its envelope most of the time. So similar thing, that is why the ISC 2, Vishal probably will be the name, your name. So it probably will, will be the design will be frozen only after we have decided which is the aircraft.
Okay. The proper way to do it.
Absolutely, that's the way to do it, and that is how it is being done. Whereas the one which is already about to sail, that is the Vikrant in new reincarnation, that will be able to take the MiG-29K, and it will also be able to take the Tejas Navy.
Okay.
Yeah, because the wire pull-out, wire pull-out has to be adjusted, because when it pulls out the wire on landing, then what happens is that if it is very light, then it can slide off. The wire being pulled out, it can slide off. The aircraft is too light. Only if it is heavy, then it goes straight. So these are some technical issues which will be addressed.
Okay.
But they have got all that sorted out right now. And I only say that whatever time it takes, no country has become a dominant power in the world by buying aircraft, buying ships, and buying submarines, and buying platforms.
It's only by making it yourself.
Absolutely.
Definitely. That's what the most important aspect here is, make in India.
Absolutely.
Indigenization aspect.
Absolutely.
One of the challenges, I'll bring in General Arora again here, and taking Edmund Sinha is pointing out specifically as to how things might move ahead in the times to come, and what would be required to be done.
Yes, plenty of challenges. Look at China first. We started our career-borne journey in 1961, I think. The Chinese started much later, 1987. They already have 3 aircraft carriers under construction. Of course, one can question their ethics. For their carrier aircraft, they copied the Su-33 and developed the J-15. By the way, J-15 cannot take off from the ski jump with its full load. They are not perfect yet. But they copied that design, they developed the J-15, and they are having problems. It can only operate with lesser weight. They even copied, rather I would say, they bought 4 decommissioned carriers, one from Australia, a couple of them from Russia, and the Varyag from Russia they developed into the Liaoning. That hull is very old, but whatever it is, they are now ahead of us. 3 aircraft carriers, 1 operating, 2nd under sea trials, 3rd under construction, and as Ajay said, in the next 10 years they might have 6 of them, maybe more. Our naval chief the other day said in a decade they may have 10 aircraft carriers. We are still trying to fund the 3rd aircraft carrier, which is on paper only, and that is going to be different. 65,000 tons planned displacement with a Catobar system. Catobar is entirely different. That's the challenge. If the LCA is going to be used on that, any aircraft launched with a catapult is totally different kettle of fish, different kind of stresses working on it. And generally it is believed to be for much bigger aircraft. So as Admiral Sinha said, which aircraft carrier is it for? Second is the engine. Although he mentioned GE414 should meet the requirement, but as Ajay said, the Mark II is going to be much heavier. And if it has to do multi-purpose roles, the GE414, and I remember Admiral Anand Prakash saying once, will not suffice. You might require a different engine. If you require a different engine, you will have to go back to the drawing board. What will you do with the design of the LCA then? So there are many challenges. I hope they keep at it. The answer is does not lie in acquiring a ready-made aircraft from the West or Russia. This is the mistake we did with the HF-24. It was underpowered. We didn't develop an engine for it. The HF-24 was shelved. Then one fine day we decided to make the Kaveri engine from the DRDO. The GTRE did develop an engine. It was overweight. It did not deliver the thrust required. But thereafter, there have been talks with British, with French, and even lately this year with Safran, which have been given up on the issue of cost. Damn it, this is an issue of national importance. Let's spend money one time. I know there is lack of money. Even the 3rd aircraft carrier is going to cost 70,000 crore rupees. The the Kaveri engine, for developing it into a world-class engine fit for multi-purpose use, is also going to cost 20,000-30,000 rupees. That is why there is a reluctance from the government to commit at this moment. This is leading to delays. Delays means more cost, escalation. But we must keep at it. I think for the aero engine, the HAL has produced 5,000 engines so far, but they are all been licensed assembly. And they have overhauled 18,000 engines. They are the nominated center for overhauling some of the foreign engines also. But that is all expertise in just putting them together. It is not in metallurgy, it is not in aerodynamics, it is not in tooling, machining. Developing aero engines requires a different kind of skill altogether, and the design. We should take the help of the Japanese. They are far ahead in aero engine design. Many of the aero engine manufacturers are absolutely reluctant to part with the technology, but we should be able to get. So aircraft and aero engine is the challenge for our aerospace industry.
So making our own engine is the key to that. But Ajay, your views on the challenges ahead?
See, first of all, Vishal, before answering question, I'll take a short little digression from where Admiral Sinha mentioned. See, this shore-based test facility where this LCA Tejas has been tested is a ground-based facility made like an aircraft carrier. It has a ski jump takeoff, it has a rest while landing. Now comes the biggest challenge. When you try this plane out on the aircraft carrier is moving, and there is also a roll and pitch of the sea. So this factor also has to be tried later when it's to go or see on board the aircraft.
That is where Admiral Sinha mentioned Sea State 1 or Sea State 2
yes,
or Sea State
yes,
3.
yes. Second point, when you talk of making our own engine, is the most important aspect. As General Arora has pointed out, that this is a thing of national importance. Why it is a thing of national importance? Please understand, when you talk to a foreign person who has spent millions of dollars on R&D, he holds the intellectual property rights for that engine. When you talk of Make in India and say joint production, that foreign engine maker will, to use a colloquial phrase, extract his pound of flesh. Be ready to pay that. Do not worry about the initial cost. Train your boys and girls into making a new engine of your own and then start off. Do not worry on the initial cost. It will be huge because that person, that company has spent 30, 40 years in making that employee cost. It's in millions of dollars. I'm saying millions as a conservative estimate. It could be billions of dollars. Right? So be ready to pay that. Don't worry about that. When we talk of the development of these engines or development of new technologies or the costs, everybody misses one little point. Navy's projects are always big in terms of numbers, but since they have a long making period, the cost is spread out. For example, we are now making a little example. Project 17A warships, 49,000 crores for 7 ships. Looks huge, but it will be spent over 8 years. That is just 6,000, 7,000 crores per year. Right? Similarly for the aircraft carrier, 70,000 crores, it will be spent over 8-9 years. So it will be like 7,000, 8,000 crores per year, which in the MOD's budget, which is having a budget of 1 lakh crore per year just for capital, is almost nothing to put it in real terms. So we should not worry about the initial cost or the huge cost because it will be spread out over years. So these things have to be taken care of very, 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 very holistically. It can't be this aircraft carrier costs 70,000 crores. It looks huge for a country like us, but that's the way we have to do about it. We have no other option, Vishal.
Okay, so we will have to ensure that the cost aspect there is tackled very well. Let's have the concluding comments from you, Admiral Sinha, on how do you see things moving from here onwards as far as developing the naval variant of maybe LCA Tejas Mark 1, then Mark 2, basically making ourselves self-sufficient, indigenization of these technologies.
Yesterday I read in the newspapers that the National Security Advisor is ready with the National Security Strategy document. And once that is an accepted document, everything should fall out from this as to how much will be the funding. And therefore funding is an important issue, as Ajay just pointed out. Let us look at China. Without sort of underestimating China's path. China is not without problems. They have 3 aircraft carriers. They don't have enough pilots. They don't have enough people to be trained. They have lost 3 pilots on learning, which is not known to many people. They're not finding enough volunteers. So we have a time frame of 6-7 years. And this funding in this 7 years, like Ajay pointed out, is not a huge sum for developing something on your own. Our people, the project teams are very committed, particularly the LCA Navy team. And I think that there is room for us, that everything is happening in time. You fund it and it will happen. As far as engine is concerned, I just wanted to put in a word that carrier per se, the ISC-2, the second one, it has been decided that it will have electrical propulsion. It means you generate electricity, you don't have to have huge gas turbines. Generate electricity and that electric motor will actually run the propeller. So that is one. But that is not possible in the aircraft. Metallurgy is our weak point, as General Arora mentioned, and something has to be done in this period of 6-7 months by only giving impetus to the Kaveri engine. And Navy has been supporting the cause of Kaveri engine for a long time. But if it doesn't happen, you go ahead and buy, spend in the development and continue R&D on the engine.
General Arora?
We should not continue to depend on the MiG-29K. There have been a lot of adverse comments even from the Comptroller and Auditor General about its serviceability, about engines being rejected, about its avionics, fly-by-wire system. We should not depend on the Hornet and the Rafale and the MiG-29 again from Russia in the new tender, because that will set in lethargy in developing our own. Even if we can come up with a naval fighter which is, say, underpowered or which needs more development, we should give fillip and encouragement to our own development so that we can improve upon it further. And there is no other shortcut but to develop our own fighters and our own aero engines.
Ajay?
In this case, let us not go by timelines because it's a complex technology to land a aircraft, fighter jet on an aircraft carrier. Takes a lot of technology which other people have mastered over 70 years. We are still trying to make it. Let us not be deterred by timelines, cost. This is the way forward. That is the only way forward in my belief, Vishal.
Okay, so there it is, as our panelists have pointed out, that the projects like the naval variant of LCA Tejas involve complex technologies. It might take longer than what